I think Tom Brady is wired at some point to submit to the broader process. After being beaten down mentally by Bill Belichick for 20 years, it was easier to get him under control. It's going to be much harder with Aaron Rodgers. And let's face it, and I always say dysfunction in any organization begins at the very top. And in New York, they've been dysfunctional for most of Woody Johnson's tenure as owner. And Woody, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but the record speaks for itself. You are, as Bill Parcells would say, what your record says you are. And they sold their soul to the delicate genius last year. And they made it worse by accepting his gesture of $35 million or so in money that he handed back. Do you think he just did that out of the goodness of his own heart? Do you think that was some kind of donation to the heir of a big pharma corporation? Hell no. That gave him even more control. That put him in better position. That underscored the fact that Woody Johnson owns the team, but Aaron Rodgers runs it. And it's too late at this point to go back. And we see evidence of it all the time. We're going to talk about one tangible piece of evidence of it later in the program. So if he wants Davante Adams, he's getting Davante Adams, even if it means Garrett Wilson, who otherwise would have been with the team a lot longer than Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson may get sacrificed because Rodgers wants his buddy and Rodgers is in charge, and they signed their soul over to him when they did the deal and when they accepted. It was cemented when they accepted that $30 million plus gesture from him last August or thereabouts.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the people who are doing this, you think about Joe Douglas and Salah, they're going to be gone. Like that to me is the hardest thing about the NFL because, like you said, you take a look at who really makes these decisions. It's ultimately the owner, right? You own this team, so you do that. But we know who's going to get the blame. So I'm just wondering, at some point, do they just say, we're going to get fired anyway? I look at Dave Canales and the Panthers. I mean, if this doesn't work out, hey, we know he's going to get blamed. But maybe he made the decision. Maybe he didn't make the decision for Andy Dalton. But ultimately, at some point, I just think when you're in these seats that are kind of figurehead seats and you don't really get to move the dominoes and move the pieces where you want, at some point, you got to just say, you know what, forget it. I'm going to get fired anyway. And it feels like, especially because it's a New York team, every week is the determination of if you're going to keep your job or not. The Jets go out and handle the Patriots on a Thursday night. They haven't really done that in a while. The Patriots had a win streak going into MetLife. They go and win, and all we talk about after the game is how great Aaron Rodgers looked, what he was able to do, and rightfully so, because he looked really impressive that Thursday night. But I don't think there was much mention, if at all, of Robert Saleh getting the team ready to go on a short week, how much they traveled, and how that team came out and executed. I don't think we talked about that at all after the game. The following week, they go out there, they play Denver, 13 penalties, 5 of them false starts. Everyone's like, Saleh has to go. He's not the coach. And that's the world we live in of how this thing operates. So I just think as GM and head coach, you have to just put your stamp on it. And I thought when I used to play against the Jets, when I was still playing and Salah came, there was a culture and a way that they played that you just, to me, jumped off the screen. How hard the running backs were running, the defense flying around. And like when I watch the Jets teams right now this year, I just don't feel like it's that same edge every week. Even when they had Zach Wilson at quarterback and, we played games where honestly the game was super close and the difference was the few interceptions or turnovers he had. But like the games were close because of the style of play and how those guys came and prepared and played outside of just the quarterback position. And now I'm looking at this team and I'm like, I don't see that. I don't see this team that was always on edge, that was all gas, no brakes. And I think they have to get back to that. They have to try as much as possible to avoid all of the narratives that run and ruin these Jets teams through the years because of the media comes in and different things. And then the team, the coaches, the players, they start playing to those narratives and trying to prove people wrong because they said this. And I think this team has kind of fallen a little bit into that trap of, all right, the defense was supposed to be great, but they're not playing well. So now the defense is trying to prove a point, but Rodgers is trying to, like, I think they really have to change that and get back to what they kind of were built on, of a team that just goes all out every single play and let the chips fall where they may fall. Because I think that style, for one, the New York, New Jersey, this area loves that style and can get behind that. And ultimately, I think with Aaron Rodgers in that style, they'll win games, but they might not win games the way people want them to win games. But at the end of the day, no one cares as long as you're winning.
You make an excellent point about how when the Jets manhandle the Patriots on a short week, oh, Aaron Rodgers is back. Aaron Rodgers is looking like an MVP. This is all Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, and not, wow, they've really weathered this early season storm, playing 3 games between September 9 and September 19. Great job, Robert Saleh, keeping them together and coming out of that start 2-1. Then they lose to the Broncos, and you're right, it's all Saleh's fault. It's not Rodgers' fault. We're going to delve into this issue that has emerged, and I think it's a great example of what happens when you surrender your team to a player, which is what they've done. And for Jets fans, I don't know, for some of them it might not be a popular take. For some of them it might be music to their ears because that's what they're thinking. Why did we allow ourselves to do that? Why did we get so smitten with the idea of bringing in an aging quarterback with a reputation for being, let's face it, kind of a jerk? I made this point yesterday. When you read the Ian O'Connor biography, he never comes out and says that the reason Aaron Rodgers has been overlooked and disregarded and didn't get this chance out of high school and wasn't recruited out of Butte Community College all that aggressively, even though he was great, and the 49ers didn't want him at the first overall pick. The through line is he's a jerk. And that's the conclusion you come to when you piece it all together. And look at what's happening with the Jets. They've handed it over to him, and when things go well, it's because of him, and when things don't go well, it's because of somebody other than him. And even if he's not coming out and saying it, he's created the atmosphere where that's the natural conclusion that people come to. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.